folks, and welcome to another episode of Hash It Out. My name's Justin Moorhead. I'm here, as always, with my buddy Mitchell, and we are here to talk about James chapter 4, verses 11 and 12. What we do on Hash It Out is we're going to talk about the most recent sermon that was preached here. Right now, we're preaching through the book of James. So yesterday's sermon was James 4 through 11 through 12, and we're not going to talk back through the whole sermon, each point of it. What we want to do is identify some themes or some ideas from the sermon and allow that to be a jump-off point into some further conversation just between us and between you. We'd love for you to be in this conversation with us just without talking. So we're going to start. I want to do this. We did this once before with some other passages. Mitch, will you turn in your Bible to 1 Corinthians chapter 5?
Yes.
And this is what I want to do. I'm going to read the passage from James 4, 11 and 12. And then when I'm done, if you'll read 1 Corinthians 5, 11 through 13, I guess. All right, so here's the passage from James. It says, "Do not speak evil against one another, brothers. The one who speaks against a brother or judges his brother speaks evil against the law and judges the law. But if you judge the law, you are not a doer of the law, but a judge. There's only one lawgiver and judge, he who is able to save and to destroy. But who are you to judge your neighbor?" And then what do you have?
Start in verse 12. For what?
What
have I to do with judge outsiders?
That's good, yeah.
Okay. For what have I to do with judging outsiders? Is it not those inside the church whom you are to judge? God judges those outside. Purge the evil person from among you.
Okay, so in your passage in 1 Corinthians 5, Paul, it sounds like he's saying, don't worry with judging people outside the church, but other Christians in the church, you should judge them. James here in James chapter 4 says, don't judge your brother or your evil. So which is it? Are we supposed to judge our brothers? Brothers here, I guess, means Christian, means your Christian brother. Mm-hmm. So are we supposed to judge our Christian brothers or not? James or Paul?
Well, the easy thing is James is saying, making a comparison, do not speak evil or judge. So there's some facet of speak evil that corresponds with wrong judgment that we should pull away, where Paul is clearly not saying, go speak evil to people in church. So there, I would say on the outset, it's pretty easy to see that they're talking in two different spheres. And I think it would be even easier for us to understand it from our current judicial system. If you're judged, it's going to usually produce two things. Somebody telling you you're guilty, and then here's your sentence. James has in mind the sentencing side of it. Paul has in mind the verdict side of it.
Okay.
So Paul is saying, render verdicts with those who are in the church. And then secondly, Paul even is referencing the sentencing side, but we're doing the sentencing side for the person's good. Mm-hmm. So here's what I mean by that. Paul envisions a scenario in church where somebody is guilty, in this case, of grievous sin.
Sure.
So he initially is saying, you should render a verdict, right? He actually gets on to them. Mm-hmm. You've overlooked this grotesque sin. The guy's sleeping with either his mom or possibly his stepmom. It doesn't really say.
Sure.
It doesn't indicate it. It says his father's wife.
Right.
So he says, you should not put up with that. You should call this sin. His father's wife should not be cheating with her son or stepson.
Sure.
So you should call this sin. So you should render a verdict. On the one hand. Yep. And then secondarily, you should say, we cannot treat you, right, the sentencing side of it, we cannot treat you as if you were a Christian when you are acting entirely antithetical to the faith. So we don't know if you're a Christian or not.
Right.
That's ultimately going to be between you and the Lord. But as far as we can tell, you are not acting in accordance with the faith. And so we need to warn you that this is outside the bounds of the faith, sleeping with your mom.
Sure.
Or your stepmom, right? So he even says, man, even people who aren't Christians, no, you don't do this. Right? Yeah. This is a pretty common, pretty open and shut case. So when he says, you should judge these scenarios. You should render a verdict, A, because they were silent on the verdict. And then B, you should warn them that you will have something coming in your future that is not heaven.
Right.
If you keep acting in this way, because the only person that would act so grotesquely is someone who doesn't have a relationship with Jesus. So that's what Paul's speaking to. So he's giving a good expression. Yeah. James is, on the other hand, equating judgment with speaking evil about somebody. So he's saying it's even less about the verdict and more about the reason you would speak evil about somebody in a third-party sense is because you and I here, we're talking about Paul, and you know what kind of guy he is. So I want to change your opinion or sway you in some way towards Paul. So it's, in one sense, just to say it real clearly, we're talking about different scenarios.
Yeah.
I do see why they sound similar.
So James is not saying, to use the kind of courtroom imagery, James is not saying you need to just don't do the judgment part of it. You can do the verdict part of it, but just not the judgment. He's saying it's more about doing any of this not in the presence of another person. Is that what you're saying? So it shouldn't be, for example, say you got a guy in church that you're in church with who went out of the weekend and got drunk, made a fool of himself. So to go give a verdict to him as a brother and say, that was sinful, that wasn't good, that doesn't honor God what you did, if you did some damage there, you need to walk it back. Like that would be giving a verdict to him, directly to him. What would in the same scenario, the thing that James is warning against? Because in some, the judgment, the verdict is a judgment. You're saying this is just telling you the truth about what you've done. James is saying don't go and be judgmental by speaking evil. So in that scenario, would that just look like going and gossiping about the drunkenness and not really talking to him about it?
Yeah, so James is using it, if you go back to the James passage, he's using it in comparison, not to just on Judgment Day, God's going to render a verdict. He does compare it to Judgment Day, but he says, he's going to say, you're guilty, but then he's going to pronounce your sentence. You're either going to be saved or destroyed. Well, James does not comment on the pronouncement of guilt. He comments on the saved or destroyed piece. So we use our judicial system at this point in the passage. So he's being nuanced and careful. So he doesn't mention one way or the other whether or not you render a verdict. That's not his goal here. His goal is to say, you are not allowed to condemn someone. So you're not allowed to condemn. I would say it this way, even if you're right, even if your judgment is right, you're saying something accurate and true, you're still not allowed to condemn the person. The way you would condemn somebody, punish someone, is by going around to others and talking about them, trying to sway people to view them in a bad light. So I want to alienate you from anybody you would have called a friend. That's to condemn you with this group. Right? So he actually does, when he says judgment, he doesn't give a right or wrong. He says that where it parallels speaking evil, is the reason I would speak evil about somebody is because I'm trying to influence people in a negative way towards a third party. That's why I would speak evil. Similarly with judgment, I want to punish you.
And you're saying even if you're right.
Yeah, you don't even get to condemn.
Even if the thing you're saying is true. How would it parse out if it were like warning somebody about somebody else? So there's a negative quality about a person that would put people in harm's way in whatever way. But you think, I've got a responsibility to go tell people, hey, be careful with this person. Like, you know what I mean?
I do. I think you could say it. I'm going to give the most easily understood example.
Sure.
If somebody were a child molester, they got out of jail after a short stint.
Sure.
And they're near a playground. You go warn the moms.
Sure.
Right? So I do think there is a time in which you go warn the moms because he's on the sex offender list. I just want to make you aware of that. So I do think you would say that gets close to this, but my motivation for doing it's the key.
Okay.
I'm not trying to condemn the guy.
Yeah.
I am trying to protect other people. So I do think
you.
my goal is to act in the good of others, not to condemn the guy. However, I think you can get somebody who's there are people on the sex offender list, and you could say, I want to alienate them from everybody in this neighborhood. So I'm going to make it my job to tell everybody in this neighborhood what type of person they are and point all of this out. My motivation is I just hate that this guy is in our neighborhood now, and I want to alienate him. I want the whole neighborhood to condemn this guy.
Sure.
Yes, he may have paid his time, but I don't care about that. There's no excuse, whatever the case may be. So I think we do draw lines. It is, like I was saying about James, and thankfully the Bible is this way. The Bible doesn't just give a black and white kind of pat answer. It is nuanced. So we should respect that about James.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful, especially thinking about the motivation of it when it involves that. Are we trying to look out for somebody's best interest, take them out of harm's way by just letting them know something, or are we seeking to, because of our disdain for someone, trying to make sure you're alienated, make sure you're outside? That's helpful. That's helpful. In the passage, it says in verse 12, there's only one lawgiver and judge who's able to save and destroy. But who are you to judge your neighbor? You mentioned in the sermon kind of a parallel path in Matthew chapter 10, verse 28. Matthew 10:28 says, and do not fear those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather fear him who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Jesus encouraging this right fear of God because he is the judge. He is a judge. How does that help us to reflect on Jesus' teaching in Matthew 10 about fearing God because of what he is capable of as judge? How does that help us to not wrongly put ourselves in that position of judge?
Well, I think hopefully it's almost straightforward from the passage that the issue is when I'm judging, what I'm doing is putting myself in the position of God, making declarations. I think people in church have done that for a long time. They've made declarations that are not really found in the Bible. I'll tell you what, let me flip this on you.
Sure.
Let me have some fun. I think you and I grew up in from different vantage points, so to speak. I would have made a great Pharisee.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, I know all the rules.
Sure.
Church rules. I know all the church rules. I think you would have appreciated breaking church rules. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think one of the church rules I was really familiar with, but you give me some others.
Yeah.
Is how you dress at church.
Right, yes.
Yeah. That people would look down on you for not dressing up enough.
Sure.
And I think the way I usually heard it was you should have your Sunday best. Something like this. You would dress up to go meet the president.
Right.
So why wouldn't you dress up to go be before the Lord?
Sure. Yeah.
Right. And hopefully we think more of God than we do of Trump.
Right.
Right. So any others that come to mind? People that have judged you.
Music you listen to?
Yes. Okay. Yep.
That's a good
That's
one.
good.
Yeah. So you can't listen to like rock and roll music. You got to listen to Christian music only.
Yes. Okay.
Seems like a good rule.
What about Christian rock? Was that?
Christian rock is
that's okay.
That's okay.
Yes.
Third Day's okay, but not Pearl Jam. Even though they sound exactly the same.
That's fair. I don't even know enough about Third Day to know if they sound the same. Yeah, so I think a lot of those kind of things. Do you have any alcohols? Another one?
Sure, yeah.
People use.
There you go.
Let's just go with the how people dress for a second.
Yes.
And then we'll come back to Pearl Jam maybe. You can make just wrong verdicts. So that is something that comes out when you're trying to be judge and you're not sitting under the true judge, God, and I don't actually fear what he would be concerned with. When I usurp the role, I can make wrong verdicts. So to be real frank, the one about how people dress in church was people sitting in the spot of God making a wrong verdict. Let me try to prove it to you. Jerry Bridges is an author. He's got a book, Respectable Sins, chapter on judgmentalism. I thought he really good. So I'm going to give you kind of a parallel to his chapter. In there, he points out that how people dress. So if we take the idea, if I'm going to dress up to go see the president at the White House, I'm certainly going to wear a pretty nice outfit for there. So I should have a similar sense of reverence if I'm going to show up in church. But I'm taking out of that the context. So, for instance, the president doesn't do it. If I go visit the president at his golf course,
Sure.
I'm probably not going to wear a suit.
Right.
So I'm going to take into account the context. So I think that very similarly, I should take into account the context at church. The context at church is not to be as expensively dressed as possible.
Sure.
I would say that is to be in the position where I have a proper respect for what's going on. So I could also dress in a way that would be inappropriate in some other fashion. If I just come in a swimsuit, if I come in like a two-piece or something. So if I show up, I could have a sense of decorum about me that doesn't fit that context. So I should try to fit the context. I think it's very easily. The Bible, the book of Corinth in particular, the Corinthians, Paul is saying the church of Corinth, talking about how they dress at different points and to fit the context. So that's more what is going on. When I make a declaration, as lofty as it might seem, you should dress in a way that shows I respect God at least as much as the president.
Sure.
Ignores that context principle altogether. But when we put that on people because we've sat in the position of God and we've made a law that they've got to abide by, then what I'm doing to myself is what James is pointing out. He says you've actually put yourself in this position of being narcissistic, thinking I'm above everybody. And so it's actually destructive to myself.
Yes.
That's really what this kind of nuanced passage James is referencing is not how this harms others. Many passages talk about that. It's I'm putting myself in this position that is destroying me, kind of eating away my soul from the inside out, of thinking I'm better than everybody else, I'm lofty. So I very much appreciate the Matthew passage you referenced is saying the fix to that is I should sit with a sense of fear and respect and reverence for God. And one of the things that's going to do is cause me to hold real tightly to God's word and not make extra rules.
Sure.
And it really sets you free in that respect. I don't have to keep up some fictitious set of rules about how you dress or the music you listen to or whatever else.
Right.
I can just say, what would matter to God?
Right.
And that's what's going to guide my life.
Sure.
And it does this beautiful thing in life. It provides a lot of freedom in life in many areas. And I'm not worried about even what other people might judge me on because I'm sitting under God. So it does this wonderful thing that makes life kind of blossom in many respects for somebody who has sat in this repressive kind of religious sect.
Sure.
And some certainly are worse than others.
Yeah.
But I bet probably many people are aware of or could recall different rules that have been placed on them, and they say, is that even in the Bible?
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
and I think even for James, I mean, James seems to be addressing the Pharisee in us, Don't be this judgy person. And I think to remember, who we are before God is a real helpful landing spot to say that shores us up really quickly. And the part I hadn't thought about that I think should be really attractive to folks is that it's freeing. You don't have to police everybody, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can just faithfully represent God in His Word, correct people when you need to, but you're not trying to condemn people because that's not the space that you're in. That's not who you are. I think the liberating part of that is attractive. Hopefully it is. Yeah. So anyway, folks, hopefully that's helpful.
Pearl Jam.
Listen to Pearl Jam, except for the ones with the bad words. You know what I mean? But so hopefully this has been helpful to you, and we hope that you'll join us next time as we chat again on Hash It Out.